the Gullah Geechee Nation, as we would say, Gladi Fadia with Honachillan this evening. And I'm very pleased that the Army Corps of Engineers is having this hearing so that you can hear from us. And I want to thank, in particular, the Savannah River Keepers, because they were the ones that made the Gullah Geechee Nation aware that this meeting would happen. And our culture and our cultural heritage is throughout not only the area of this project, but from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. And with numerous dredging projects, numerous bridges being built, new roads being cut in, what is often left out is the negative impacts and trying to mitigate those negative impacts on Gullah Geechee families and on our cultural heritage resources that are within the cultural landscape that is a National Heritage Corridor, National Heritage Area. This project sits in the Gullah Geechee National Heritage Area. So we need to ensure that all of the negative environmental impacts, as well as any impacts on lowering the quality of life or the displacement of Gullah Geechees, is considered, as well as what happens when you further dredge and what types of things will happen environmentally, and the creatures that are within the wildlife refuge that will get displaced by some points of the project crossing through what has been federal land that was supposed to protect it. My greatest concern in the environmental regard is the fact that because all of this has taken this series of years beyond a decade, we have seen now king tides, we see sea level rise, and we have survived and thrived through several other hurricanes and major storms. So now how is this project being reevaluated as we go forth in terms of what the future will hold? Because as has already been stated eloquently by your team, this is a future project. So we want to make sure the future does not remove any more of the Gullah Geechee culture and traditions from this land. As we always say, the water to bring we, the water going to take we back. But we want to not be flowed out with the tide of this change. Thank you very much.
Please spell your name with position or title.
I'm Queen Quet, Chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation, Queen, Quet.
And for people unfamiliar kind of with this area and what the Gullah Geechee Corridor is, give me a little background on what that is.
Well, that is normally people's first indication that they've arrived in the Gullah Geechee Nation or traveling through the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, which is a national heritage area that encompasses from Jacksonville, North Carolina down to Jacksonville, Florida, where people of African descent that have been here from the 1600s until the present live along this area. And we have our own unique culture, which includes the Gullah Geechee language and music, food traditions, and we are people who are still agrarian and live from the waterways. So a lot of times when people come in, they may see us and don't realize this is Gullah Geechee, tell me to throw them down like a dish and thing like that.
And so what are you guys' concerns with these kind of projects? Obviously you said you guys are going to kind of still live off the waterways and stuff. What are some of the big concerns that's coming out of this project?
A couple of major concerns for us with this Jasper Oceans Terminal project is, one, the economic impacts everybody always discusses, but we generally don't see any of that economic flow come to the Gullah Geechee community. However, part of what does tend to happen in our community is that these projects will displace us from what has been our economic and sustainability center, our waterways. We still literally feed ourselves and our family from these waterways. We still live along the waterways. So when these projects are talked about, a lot of times no one considers how many of our families may have to move away for somebody to widen a road, add a new bridge, or especially dredge out a waterway. What then happens with our water quality and our quality of life? So these are major concerns for us. As people count dollars, they need to count us into the picture as well.
Do you have a question while I adjust my shot?
Yeah, you mentioned as part of the corridor from North Carolina all the way to Florida, you mentioned in your comments that you're fighting these battles a lot with bridges and expansions and all kinds of projects.
Absolutely.
Are you, what is the united front of the whole Gullah Geechee Nation? Are you all working together on this to kind of pick your battles, as it were?
Yeah. It's interesting. People often ask me about the Gullah Geechee Nation and all of this onslaught and inflow of projects that are always there that could potentially displace us. And that's why I was elected the head of state for the Gullah Geechee Nation and as an official spokesperson, so that I can be the voice to come out for a collective unit of all of our people, up and down from North Carolina down to Florida. But we also have the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, the Gullah Geechee Angel Network, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Committee of Northeast Florida, the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank, and we all work collectively. And so I've turned in letters even tonight from several of those bodies, but then when I get up and speak as head of state, I just talk for all of we and things like that. So they always say we don't need all of us talking, we just all need to talk in one united voice.